Hey, everybody. Good to see you. Thanks for popping in here to our workshop today. Just getting everybody admitted into the room. People are all bouncing in. Great to see y'all. Thanks for taking time out of your day here as we work to grow your audience. That's what we're all about today. Appreciate you getting all signed up and taking time to be part of this training today. I am recording it, so the replay will be available for you later on tonight. I will get it all posted up and share it with you all so you can dive into it a little deeper if that's what you choose to do. We have a lot planned. I'm going to cram as much as I can into this hour. It's all about attracting your ideal clients and making money with your podcast. That's what the training is going to be all about today. Congratulations for being here on this training. I know taking that first step and getting that first step of action under your belt, well, it's the beginning of the journey, right? The information that I'm going to share with you today will make a big difference in your podcast and in your business and in your life, but you have to take action to make that happen. And so being here on this training today is the first step in taking that action and putting this all into place to make a big difference in your world. So that's what I want to share with you today is to take the information and actually do something with it. So many times we go to these trainings and we get a lot of information and we do nothing with it. And it doesn't make a difference in our business and our podcast in our life because we just don't simply take action. So what I want to do is arm you with the information today, but not simply arm you with it. I want to show you how to put it into action into your business. So a few things I want to share before we dive into it today. And that is, it's only going to take about an hour. So turn off your distractions. Give me your full attention here for about the next 60 minutes. Turn off the email and the phone notifications and all that good stuff. If those are popping up, you're going to miss some nuances that I'm going to share with you today. Also grab something to write with. Pen and paper's best. I always find that if we are writing it down manually, we'll remember it a lot more and actually put it into action. If you're typing it into a computer, yeah, it's great to take notes that way. But I find that just the action of writing it just helps us remember it more, helps us implement it in a stronger way. So pen and paper works great. And then at the end, I'm going to give you an invitation. If you want to go deeper and actually put this into action, give you the opportunity to join me in the Audience Explosion Blueprint program. So that's what it's all about today. I do have a couple things I want to share with you that are going to help you get even more out of today. If you go to podcasttalentcoach.com/framework, I'm going to give you a podcast profits framework. I put that link in the chat there as well. You can download that for free. It'll help you get an idea of who you're trying to attract today, the audience you're trying to bring into the podcast, and what you want to do with that audience once they're here. So there's some spaces in there you can fill out as we go along today. You get some ideas that you want to use as you grow your audience and use to leverage that attention to grow your business. That worksheet right there will help you out. It's my podcast profits framework, and you can get that at podcasttalentcoach.com/framework, and it will help you. It'll just help you implement everything that we're going over today. All right. One thing to keep in mind as we're going through this is that your content that you're creating drives your business by growing relationships and authorities. You want to bring listeners into your business by building relationships through your podcast. So many people want to build a huge audience because they want to leverage that attention to sell ads or get sponsors for their show. And that's just really a tough struggle because it takes a long time and a big audience to land sponsors for your show. So rather than doing that, use your podcast to grow a relationship with your audience and turn that relationship into business by turning those listeners into clients. All right. So write down on that sheet that I gave you or in your notes as we go along all of the things that that pop into your head as we're going through this today, the ideas that you get and that kind of thing. Because so many times we go to free trainings like this, or we go to seminars or lectures, and we take a whole bunch of notes and we get all excited and we think it's great, but then we return home to our to-do list and the notes just go in the top drawer of our desk, and we always intend to get to it and we never do. And it never makes any difference in what we're trying to accomplish because we simply don't take action. So what I'm going to show you today is a strategy that I've used to grow my audience, and I've taught this to many clients over the years on how to grow their audience as well. And it's a step-by-step strategy, but I want to give you the opportunity to implement what you learn so you too can grow your audience. Does that sound good? If we can get out of today with just that, post sounds good in the chat for me. If that sounds like one thing we can walk away at the end of this hour, let me know that you're with me. Aaron says, good. Matt, Alexi, we're all in. Fantastic. Love it. All we have to do is take what we're teaching today and put it into action so I can show you how it all works. All right. Let me show you a quick example before we dive into it. This here is Zoe Routh. Zoe came to me a couple of years ago. She was looking to use her podcast to grow her business as well. So many people make the strategy so much more difficult than it needs to be. Many people just make monetization and audience growth harder than it needs to be. And it wasn't always easy for me. I've struggled with it for quite a few years, but over 30 years in radio and 10 years coaching podcasters, I was finally able to distill it all down into a step-by-step process to show you how to grow your audience and leverage that attention to grow your business. And that's what I want to show you today. And that's what I helped Zoe do. Zoe is one of Australia's leading experts on people stuff. That's how she frames it. She goes in to help businesses and companies break down the silos so the departments work better together. And she helps them end the turf wars and that sort of thing. And she has worked with individuals and teams all across Australia, all the way up to Canada, in the United States and Europe as well. She's actually from Northern Ontario in Canada, and she eventually moved down to Australia. And she just goes in and she works with teams to remove the politics from the workplace and work better together. But what Zoe does is she'll use her podcast to open doors for her. Rather than reaching out to the CEOs that she likes to work with to make a cold call or ask them out to lunch or see if she can get an appointment with them, she reaches out to these CEOs and invites them to be a guest on her podcast. So where Zoe would normally get shut down when she's asking to get a meeting with a CEO, she's invited with open arms to come on in because she invites the CEO to be a guest on her podcast, and it starts building the relationship with her ideal clients so it can lead to a conversation of working together. And what Zoe does is one of my favorite ways to leverage your podcast and leverage your audience to grow your business. With Zoe's strategy, you really don't need a large audience to monetize your show. You use the podcast as a stage to put your ideal clients on so you can turn them into clients. You put your prospects on your stage and interview them, build the relationship with them, and then convert them into clients. And it's a great opportunity to leverage your podcast without having a huge audience. Does that make sense? Do you understand how that works? If it just put an "oh yeah" in the chat if you kind of get what I'm talking about there in terms of using the podcast as a tool rather than panicking that you need a huge audience. Yeah, Tony gets what I'm talking about. Thanks, Tony. That's just one example of making money with your podcast to attract your ideal clients. It's building relationships and building rapport. Now, my audience explosion blueprint that I teach is 3 overall steps. It's your promotion, your programming, and your profits. But I'm going to break that down into 6 steps for you. And we're going to dive into each of those 6 steps today so I can show you exactly how to put it all together and how you can use that to grow your audience, to fill your audience with your ideal prospects. Now, if you're new to my world, I am focused on the art of podcasting because I spent years in radio where a lot of people will teach you how to launch your podcast and all the technical jargon of it. Once you get your podcast launched, you go, okay, now what? Well, that's kind of where I come in. I focus on taking your content and turning it into entertainment so you can turn your listeners into clients. And I started in radio 30 years ago in this little hut in the middle of nowhere. My brother actually worked there and by accident, his boss called one day and was looking for some help. And I stepped up and took the job. My brother and I grew up in this little house here. We lived here from when I was born all the way till I went to college. My mom raised us on her own in this house. And I was watching my mom raise us. She was a side hustler too. That's what I loved about my mom. She had a job where she was making tips, basically. She worked as a waitress, and she waited tables at our lounge in a restaurant 4 nights a week. And it didn't quite make ends meet, so she was always creating a side hustle. She was out baking cakes or always teaching me how to make money on the side. And that's what I loved about it. Now, I was trying everything I could. I eventually went to college here at the University of Nebraska. I got my degree in architecture. But about 3 years into the architecture program, I started falling out of love with architecture. And that's when that phone call came. And my brother's boss offered me a job working at the same radio station. So I jumped into that opportunity, fell in love with radio, and took the job here at this little hut. And it was fantastic. The problem was I always hated presenting in architecture school. Like when we got into architecture, I was having to get up in front of our classmates and present my drawings and my creations, and I hated it. I did, people say that the fear of public speaking is the number one fear. I think the fear of looking stupid while you're public speaking is probably the number one fear, because I hated being up in front of anybody to speak. So here I get this job in radio, and now I get to talk to people that I can't see and hope that I'm entertaining them. And I get no feedback at all. But it was great, and I fell in love with it. And I started taking some classes at the university for journalism and for broadcasting, but I realized I already knew all of that because I'd worked in radio. So I just finished my architecture degree and stayed in radio. But I was always introverted. I never wanted to be on the radio. I never wanted to be on stage. I just loved music, and I loved being able to share that passion with my audience. And I was able to go on to interview incredible people. I was so fortunate and so lucky to interview guys like George Strait, Ice-T back when I was in college, Zach Brown, Lady Gaga, Lionel Richie. It was phenomenal. But I was thinking, as I'm interviewing these people, I was thinking there's got to be something more. There's got to be something more to this, to share my message, to get out there, to be me, and to be authentic. And that's what I started learning how to do. What brought people to the radio station? It couldn't just be the fact that I was interviewing these cool people or playing their favorite music. They could get that anywhere. What was it that we were providing on the radio that was attracting the audience? And what made one radio station better than the other? And it was the fact that we were creating relationships. We were being our authentic selves and growing that relationship. When people would meet me out on the streets, they would say, I know we've never met, but I feel like I know you because I've been listening to you for years. And that's the power of your podcast. When you build that relationship with your audience, people will meet you at a conference or an event, and they'll come up to you and they'll say, Denise, I know we've never met, but I feel like I know you because I've been listening to your show for years. And that is how it's fantastic. Or they'll reach out to you via email. They'll know little things about you. They'll know your dog's name because you mentioned it on episode 72. Or they'll know about your vacation that you took to South Carolina because you happened to mention that in passing one week. All those little things they'll know about you. And that's how we build relationships with your podcast. But it always also gives you an amazing opportunity to demonstrate your authority and your expertise. And it gives you an opportunity to attract your ideal clients because you're building that relationship with them week after week. You're in their ear. You're having that one-on-one conversation with them. They're listening to you while they're doing something else by themselves. The entire reason people listen to audio is so they don't have to be alone. They listen to you for companionship. They want to be out mowing the yard or riding their bike or exercising or driving in the car with their friend. And that is you. That is what you serve. So as I'm going along and I'm learning all this stuff in radio and figuring out how to attract the audience and build that audience, I thought, man, I'm going to own a radio station. That's going to be my thing. So I was going down the path, trying to figure out how to buy a radio station. And then the FCC rules changed, and all of a sudden, all of these big businesses started buying up all the radio stations for crazy money, like millions and millions of dollars, where all of the little mom and pop radio stations were going out and selling their stations to these big conglomerates. And then those stations started creating all of this homogenized programming where everything sounded the same. You could go to Paducah, Kentucky, or you can go to Reno, Nevada, and you would hear the exact same radio station because it was all lowest common denominator. It lost the magic and the pizzazz, and it lost the fun and the excitement that was in radio when I first jumped in. And then that's when I discovered podcasting. When the podcasting came along, it was like the Wild West again. It was like what I had discovered in radio to start. We could do what we wanted. It was our own show. We could share ourselves. We could be authentic. We could create those relationships again, and we could talk about whatever we wanted to talk about. And that's when the excitement and the fun came back. And now I use that platform to share my expertise and help others do the same, to get their story out to the world and to really build that relationship. So not only can you take your content and put it online, but you can take your content and put it online and build relationships with your ideal clients. It's not simply about growing an audience, but it's about growing an audience of the right people so they want to do business with you. And that's what I want to show you today. All right. If you're ready to create content that actually attracts your ideal client and not just anybody, put me in the chat and let me see. You know, even though I could no longer own a radio station, here was an opportunity for me to take my content and turn what I've mastered into a business. Yeah, Tanya's in, Tony's in, Jay's in. You're all in. I love it. I love it. So podcasting came up to me and said, here's your opportunity to take your content and leverage it. So the question that I have as we jump into today is, are you leveraging your content to its fullest potential? Are you taking it and putting it out there in a way that creates a business for you? You know, so many of the gurus say, all you got to do is send an email to your list and all of a sudden the money starts rolling in, right? Well, what they don't tell you is you actually need a list and you need an audience before you can create a list, right? You have to build a relationship with the list before you can begin leveraging that attention. And I knew I had the knowledge and I just needed to find the confidence to share it, to start building those relationships with my audience. And that's when I began using my decades of radio experience and coaching podcasters into growing relationships rather than selling attention like we were doing on the radio. You know, the radio builds a big audience and then they sell that attention to sponsors. And I thought, man, no, everybody's leaving traditional media to get away from that. Why would I want to do that on my podcast? So I launched my podcast. I got out there. I started doing my thing. But the odd thing was that imposter syndrome kicked in again. Like when I first got on the radio, I was like, here, who am I? I'm a kid coming out of architecture school trying to play radio with all these big guys. Like they're going to find me out any minute. And after decades in radio, I finally got over that a little bit. And then I launched my podcast and the whole imposter syndrome started kicking in, right? The uncertainty returned. Like, who am I to have a podcast and start telling people how to podcast when there's all these other experts and gurus out? So what I realized was I just needed to step up and believe in myself. And I saw all of these other experts doing it. And I figured, you know what? Why can't I do it too? So the opportunity to own the radio station was gone. And now here comes the opportunity to have a podcast and do exactly what I love to do. And that's to coach content creators. And that's what I've been doing over the last 10 years. And I refined the process of growing your audience through trial and error on the radio. And I refined it a little bit more as I got into podcasting. And I've been helping podcasters transform their information into entertainment and build that audience so they can grow their business. And, you know, I got lucky, right? I got lucky. I fell into radio by accident. I got lucky and found my passion. I got kicked around radio quite a bit. I learned through the School of Hard Knocks. I learned by trial and error. I figured out what works. And after I did that, I've now put it into this process of the Audience Explosion Blueprint that I'm going to teach you today, so you can learn it quickly and easily without having to go through all of the trials and tribulations that I went through trying to figure it out the hard way. All right. And I want to help you leverage your content to its greatest potential. Now, I was talking to a client earlier today. Well, she's not a client yet, but she soon will be, as soon as I can convince her that this is the way to go. And she's like, yeah, but I already do a newsletter and I have a blog and I got a YouTube guy. Like, why do I need a podcast? And I said, well, Amy, take a step back and let's look at the data. All right. I said, why do you need a podcast? Sure, you can have a blog. But according to Growth Badger, there are about 600 million blogs out there. And when was the last time you subscribed to a blog? In fact, do you even know how to subscribe to a blog? Like, subscribing to a podcast is through an RSS feed. The RSS feed originally started with blogging, right? But people don't subscribe to blogs anymore. And that 600 million blog number has been level for quite a few years. I've been studying this for quite a while, and that 600 million number hasn't changed much over the years. If you look at YouTube, there are actually 51 million YouTube channels. That was back in 2022. It's probably more today. Those are channels you can actually subscribe to. Those aren't content creators. Those are different YouTube channels. And YouTube continues to change their algorithm, which makes it incredibly difficult to get your video to go viral, to get you to stand out and get you noticed. But YouTube is a fantastic search engine. So if you can put your videos on YouTube, then have at it, because people will find you. It's a search engine. But it's very difficult to get them to come back every time you publish new content, because there isn't that really smooth subscription model in YouTube. You can subscribe to a channel, but you occasionally get push notifications if you have your push notifications on. And when you go into YouTube, it isn't served up for you right in front of you like a podcast is. On the other hand, there's only about 3 to 4 million podcasts right now. And according to most studies, only about half of those podcasts are actively publishing new episodes. Fewer than 2 million podcasts actively published. The others are just sitting out there having not published an episode for years. And that's according to Listen Notes back in 2022. So yeah, you may have a blog and you may have a YouTube channel and that sort of thing, but you need to ask yourself, do you want to be 1 in 3 million, or do you want to try and be 1 in 600 million, right? Do you want to deal with all the hair issues and the tech issues and the lighting that comes along with YouTube? Or do you just want to roll in, turn on the mic and record your episode with a lot fewer issues and a lot less time and a lot less hair struggles, right? But there are 2 other reasons I really love podcasting as well. All right. The first one is podcasting is portable. Your clients can listen to you while they're doing other things. They can listen to you while they're driving or working out or showering or wherever reading a blog or watching a video is difficult. Like, it's kind of difficult to watch a YouTube video in the shower. You could probably do it, but it's probably not the easiest thing. So people can consume you while they're doing other things. But the data is in your favor as well. 39% of people in the US over the age of 12 listen to podcasts on a weekly basis. 109 million people have listened in the past month alone, and it's on a growth rate of about 40% over the last 3 years. That's according to the Nielsen Company. The Nielsen Company is the company that does radio and television ratings, and they survey all of these people. It's growing by leaps and bounds. It's crazy. Podcasting is huge and the future is bright, and now is the time to get in. So the question becomes again, are you leveraging your content to its full potential? And if you're not, why not? What's your biggest challenge when it comes to growing your audience and leveraging your content? What's your biggest challenge? I would love to know. If you have a challenge, post it up in the chat. What is holding you back from growing your audience? Where are you facing that challenge the most? Aaron is being consistent with creating content and sharing content. Yeah, consistency is definitely a challenge. Just finding the time to get in and record that episode every week to share your content with your audience is a challenge that I hear quite often. There are various things you can do to overcome the challenges and grow your audience and leverage your podcast to grow your business. And we're going to cover a handful of those today. There are 3 big challenges that I hear most often. When it comes to growing your audience, attracting your ideal clients, and using your podcast to grow your business, the 3 challenges I hear most often are they make it too complicated. Right? They try to launch a podcast, get it out there, and they're trying to do a million things. My old mentor used to say, we're going a mile wide and an inch deep, right? We're not doing anything to great success, but we're trying everything rather than picking 2 or 3 things that work really well and just going all in on those 2 or 3 things. That will help you. Don't make it so complicated. They have a poor strategy or worse yet, no strategy at all to grow their audience and convert that audience into paying clients. And then they just, the third challenge is they don't have anybody that can show them how it's done. They don't have anybody that can show them the way. So let me give you the 3 challenges and how to overcome them. The first one is people make it too complicated. Now, if you want to use your podcast to grow your business, you need to streamline what it is that you do. First, you need to grow your audience. That's what we're going through today. How do we get out and get in front of people who aren't aware of you and enroll in your programs and love what you do? We're going to grow your audience. We're going to build trust with that audience. We're going to offer them free help in our content, and then we're going to offer additional help to come and work with us. It's just a 4-step process. It's really pretty simple, and all you have to do is execute on the process. The second challenge is they lack a strategy. They lack that step-by-step strategy to consistently grow the audience and turn that audience into clients. And that's what my Audience Explosion Blueprint is all about. There are 6 steps to the Audience Explosion Blueprint. Podcast platform, audience attraction, your content creation, your relationship roadmap, your starting strategy, and converting clients. And I'm going to go through each one of these strategies, each one of these steps with you to show you exactly how to turn your audience into paying clients. So the first one is your podcast platform. This is your foundation. This is your why. In the framework that you downloaded, you'll see that first section there is who are you attracting and why are you attracting them? What is it that you help them do? When you can get clarity on your target, you know where to find them and you know how to help them. Oftentimes when I talk to podcasters and coaches, I say, who is it that you help? They go, oh, I help everybody. I'm a life coach. I can help anybody. I help everybody. I go, well, that's nice and all, but when it comes to marketing to everybody, you don't have the time nor the money to reach everybody. So we need to narrow that down a little bit so you could be more effective in your marketing. When you can narrow it down to a single individual and you know exactly who they are, what they're struggling with, and how you can help them, you're going to be much more successful in reaching that person and convincing that person that what you have is a perfect solution for their problem. So get perfectly clear on who it is you help, what you help them do, and why you're helping them do it. All right. This is Tavana Denise. Tavana came to me. We worked to build a really strong foundation and a powerful why for her podcast. Tavana was a nurse. And she got out of nursing. Nursing was just sucking the life out of her. She was working long hours. It wasn't what she thought it was going to be. So she got out and launched a new career. And as soon as she did, she had all of these other nurses coming to her and saying, how did you do it? Can you help me escape? Like, help me get out of this too. So she started coaching these other nurses to do the same thing she did, to find their career that they love, to find work that they love. And they quickly started finding a purpose in their life. So she built her show around that purpose. And during the show, she would invite people to come to these free roundtables that she would have. She would help them get clarity on what they wanted to accomplish. And during those roundtables, she would invite people to join her mastermind. And that's how she grew her business. But it all began by being perfectly clear on who you help. Tavana helps female nurses trying to transition out of nursing into a new career. She knows exactly who they are, what they're struggling with, and how she can help them. So your first step in growing your audience is knowing exactly who you want to attract. Now, does that mean Tavana can't help other people wanting to make a career change, or she can't help male nurses? No, her content was to help those people, but it will be perfect for these women she's trying to attract for her business. So get perfectly clear. Step 2 in the audience explosion blueprint is your popularity factor. This is how people discover you. All right. You get in front of new potential listeners. Many times I talk to podcasters, or I talk to coaches, or just content creators in general. And I say, when you post new content, how do people find it? And they go, well, I send an email out to my list, and I post it on social media. And I said, well, that's great and all, but all of those people already know you. You're not growing your audience by going and talking to your friends. Your friends are already your friends. You're not getting any new friends by talking to your current friends. We have to go find people who don't know you yet, offer them the opportunity to come and get your free stuff and get involved with you. So what is it that you're doing to get out and get in front of people who don't already know you? That is how you're going to grow your audience. And that's your popularity factor. How do we promote it? This is Greg Payne. Greg runs a show called the Cool Grandpa Podcast. His son has a couple kids, and Greg found himself a grandpa, and he's like, okay, how do I connect with these kids? How do we do stuff that they enjoy, that I also enjoy? And so he started a show called the Cool Grandpa Podcast, where he talks to other grandfathers and how they interact with their grandchildren and that sort of thing. And he absolutely loved it. So Greg came through my audience explosion blueprint when he had 350 downloads for his episodes. And over the next 6 weeks of the program, we were able to more than double his episodes. He had 350 when he started. He had 854 for an episode when he quit. Not when he quit, but when he ended the program after 6 weeks. But then a few weeks later, he emailed me to tell me that he implemented one of the interview strategies that I have, where he went out and got interviewed, and he ended up getting 1,200 downloads in a weekend just by one of the actions that he took, because he was getting in front of the right people. All right. When you put the steps into place, it will grow your audience. You just need to know what to do and when to do it, rather than just going out and trying everything all at once. Now that we have these other people, we have the attention of them, and we're bringing them to our show, our third step is our content creation. What is it that we're dishing up? A lot of people come to me and they say, Eric, I'm having a tough time using my podcast to grow my business. I'm not getting any clients from it. Matter of fact, Amy today, when I was talking to her, that's what she said. She goes, I haven't published a podcast in quite a while because I'm not getting any clients from it. And I said, well, tell me about your podcast. She goes, I interview other coaches that do what I do, and they all hire those other coaches. And I said, well, then we have a problem with your content, because your content isn't leading people to work with you. Your content is leading people to work with those other coaches. We need to restructure the podcast so we're giving them great content to show you your magic, to show them what it is that you do and how you serve people, and get them excited about working with you. It's a matter of restructuring the content so we dish up exactly what it is they want and get them excited about taking the next step with you. That's what your content creation is supposed to be about. Create content for a specific reason. This is Sadie and Sasha. These two are fantastic. Sadie and Sasha came to me. I helped them create the Meathead Test Kitchen podcast. So Sadie and Sasha love working out. They talk about all the content that they love around working out. They interview MMA fighters and renowned chefs and all sorts of various people in that health and fitness niche. And the two of them do it with a flair that only these two could do. I mean, their tattoos, and this is the first 90 seconds of the show, you know exactly what you're going to get with these two. There's no holding back, and they are truly authentic, and you're either going to love them or you're going to hate them right out of the box. And as you listen to them, they'll talk about the things that they use in their diet, in their exercise, and in their healthy way of living. And then they offer you the opportunity to buy those things as well through the affiliate links on their website. They don't even make it and sell it themselves. They might use a tumbler, like the tumbler sitting in the front picture here. They might use that tumbler to mix up their protein shakes. And you can buy that tumbler if you go to their website in their products page and buy it through their affiliate link. They get a commission. So now they're getting paid every time something sells, rather than getting paid once from a sponsor. They might recommend cookbooks or diet plans or nutritional plans, things like that. But it's all content created on their show for a purpose that leads people to doing business with them. The next step is your influence roadmap. Now, your influence roadmap is how you build the relationship with your audience. You get them to come in. People come for your content, but they're going to continue to come back for your personality. The other side of the equation to growing your audience is to keep your current listeners coming back again and again. We talked about growing your audience by getting in front of new listeners. So where are your listeners already hanging out? Who already has the attention of those people? We want to figure out how we can go partner with them, get involved with them, and get in front of their audience. How can you offer them value to put you in front of their audience? That's how we get in front of new people and invite those people into our world. And then that's one side of the equation. The other side of the equation is to keep our current listeners coming back week after week. Because if we're only bringing in new people and we're not keeping our current listeners coming back, it's like putting water in a bucket with holes in it. Right? The water just continues to leak out and we never grow the amount of water in the bucket. We're never going to grow our audience if we don't keep them coming back. So we keep them coming back week after week with our influence roadmap. It's how we infuse your content with your personality and how we infuse your content with your story. When we can do that, we build a relationship with the audience. This here is my client, Jedley. He's one of my clients. His podcast is called Reading with Your Kids. Jedley interviews authors on his show. Now, Jedley is a magician. He's a clown. He's a performer. He would go into grade schools and perform magic shows to help kids overcome bullying. And he loves working with kids, and he just loves kid content. So he started the Teaching with Your Kids podcast, and he brings that same sort of personality and flair and comedic attitude to his show to build relationships with his audience. And now he interviews all of these authors on his show to help them sell their books, and they pay for a package with him. So they don't simply pay to be on his podcast, and they don't pay to be a sponsor. And he's not a traditional affiliate. He will charge them a flat fee for a marketing plan. And his marketing plan includes live book signings, making their book a certified Reading with Your Kids choice read. He'll do newsletters. He'll do website stuff. He promotes the book in a variety of ways, including using his show. And it's all for a package fee rather than charging somebody to be on the podcast or only earning an affiliate fee. He uses the podcast as one piece of the puzzle to help people grow their businesses, and he helps them market it through the podcast. It's just another way to leverage the attention to grow the show and to grow the audience and to grow the business. So step number 5 is your starting strategy. Starting strategy is how we get your listeners from point A to point B. All right. Without a roadmap, you can't hope to get where you're going. You need a strategy to get there. A lot of people randomly create content on their podcast without any real reason to create that podcast content. This is Oscar Trimboli, one of my clients. He came to me for coaching. He wanted to strengthen the connection that he had between the podcast and his consulting business. He had done about 35 episodes for season 1, where he interviewed all of these fantastic CEOs. He helps type A personalities, leaders, CEOs be better listeners. And season 1 of his podcast were interviews with these CEOs, and he was great. But as he headed into season 2, he needed to make a stronger connection. He said, Eric, this show isn't doing anything to grow my business. All right. It's not giving me any clients. How do I make the podcast and the business tie together? How do I convert my audience to listeners? And so I listened to one of his shows and I said, man, Oscar, you do a great job listening. You do a great job interviewing these people, but I don't know anything about you. You see, Oscar's a mentor. He's a leadership coach, a speaker, an author, and a podcaster. He's written this book called Deep Listening: Impact Beyond Words. And he is fantastic. But you didn't hear that come out on the show. Our goal was to bring that power and authority to Oscar's podcast. So we restructured his show. And in season 2, we brought somebody in to interview Oscar on every show, so Oscar could demonstrate his expertise and his authority. And we could bring out his 30 years of experience. And as we work together, we refine that content. And now he's able to gain new clients through the podcast. He's able to bring new clients in because of the relationship he's building with them. He's letting them get to know who he is so they can decide whether or not they like him. And he's showing them the side of himself that builds that trust with them. And now his podcast is focused on the same material that his book is and that all of his teaching is. And he's able to convert those listeners into clients. And so he can grow his business. And now his podcast has been named one of the top 10 business podcasts of Podcast Australia. And he's just been phenomenal. So he's been really diving into getting interviewed on his show and demonstrating his expertise and his authority and turning his listeners into clients. Now he's a keynote speaker at all of these businesses. He goes into these businesses and he does workshops with them and that sort of thing. So it's been fantastic. Aaron said, is that the same person or different people? Oscar was the same person. That whole thing was all about Oscar. If that's what you're asking, Aaron, I appreciate that as well. So that gets us up. We're giving them some free content. Yes. So the interviewer, the person that was interviewing Oscar on his show, was the same person. So the guy that interviewed all of the other people and it wasn't growing his business, we flipped it. We brought in somebody else to interview Oscar on his show. So he went from being the interviewer to being the interviewee, and his co-host interviewed him on every episode to demonstrate his expertise and his authority. And so he was able to tell his story and really build a relationship with the audience. And it was fantastic. So that starting strategy is, how do we create that content and then give our audience a little something, a lead magnet of some sort of resource to get them on our email list so we can nurture them and invite them back to the show again and again and again. And then how do we take that list and how do we take step 6? And step 6 is converting clients. All right. Step 6 is where the rubber meets the road. This is what you're offering. So where does your sales conversation happen? How do you get people into your programs, whether it's a coaching program or a course or a membership or whatever it is you have to offer? Where does the sales conversation happen? Now with Sadie and Sasha, they're doing affiliate sales. So their sales conversation is basically getting people to the website to look at the products that are available for sale. Where Oscar, he wants to have a one-on-one call with people so he can determine whether or not he's right for their company. So your sales conversation might happen on a webinar, might happen on a long-form sales video. It might happen on a one-on-one consultation call. It could just happen on the website. But we have to figure out where we're trying to get people to convert into clients. All right. That's the audience explosion blueprint. Those are the 6 steps. And so getting in front of new people is the big way to attract your audience. How are we finding those new listeners? Now, you can find new listeners in a variety of ways. You can get interviewed on other podcasts. That's one of my favorite ways because podcast listeners listen to podcasts. If you want to find podcast listeners, get on other shows, find people that are speaking to your ideal target client in a complementary way. So if you're a tax preparer, you might find a business attorney, or if you're a ghostwriter for authors, you might find a book editor, and you can partner with them. Find somebody who does something similar to what you do in a complementary fashion, talking to your ideal client, and partner with them and get on their show. One of my favorite ways to grow your audience. Find stages to be on. Those could be virtual stages. You could speak on summits. You could speak on virtual conferences. You could speak to a variety of groups that are online. If you can find an event, become a speaker at an event. When you speak on these stages, whether it's a podcast or an event stage or something like that, get those listeners in the audience to your email list. Because once you can get them signed up for your email list by offering them that free little nugget and get them signed up for your email list, now you can email them and invite them to listen to your show every time a new episode is out until they physically unsubscribe. So get them to the email list. One of my other favorite ways to find really high-end clients is to speak to masterminds. If you can find somebody running a mastermind with 8 or 10 or 12 or 20 people in it, you know those people are willing to invest in their own growth. They're willing to put money down to help them overcome their challenges. When you can speak to those masterminds, you'll find people willing to invest in themselves and willing to sign up for your programs to help them overcome those challenges. One of my favorite ways to land clients. It doesn't do a ton to grow your audience, but the thing you need to understand is you don't need the big audience. You need the right audience. And like I showed you with Zoe at the beginning, Zoe doesn't have a large audience, but she has the audience that her CEOs want to get in front of. So when you have the right audience, you're able to take that next step and leverage that audience to become your ideal clients. Now, the third challenge that I talked about is people just don't know where to start. They don't have anybody that can show them the way. Yeah, I know I need to grow an audience. Yeah, I know I need to get on other podcasts. Yeah, I'd love to speak on summits. Yeah, I'd love to be on stages. Sure, I'd love to be in front of masterminds, but how do I do it? If you had somebody that could just show you the way in a step-by-step process, that's what Audience Explosion Blueprint is all about. It's an easy step-by-step way to grow your audience. So in order to leverage your content to grow your business, you need to grow an audience by sharing your expertise, and you need to build a relationship with that audience so people get to know, like, and trust you. And that's what it's all about. But the secret sauce of that, like we talked about, is sharing your personality. It can't be just you sharing your information, because information alone can be copied. We're in the world of ChatGPT now, and ChatGPT could probably generate your 6 steps to success quicker and better than you can. The only thing ChatGPT can't do is copy you, your personality and your story, your authenticity. And that's the secret to growing your audience in a meaningful way. So you have a great way to build that process in that 6-step way. And that's how you can get started, is growing your audience first. Let's figure out how we can grow your audience so they come and listen to you every single week. They sign up for you. They sign up and they sign up to listen to your podcast as a subscriber. So it shows up on their phone each and every week. And when you do that, you have that pool of listeners to tap into. But as we talked about, it can't just be getting new listeners. You have to continue to get your old listeners to come back week after week. Otherwise, you're just putting water in the bucket with holes in the bottom. But if you keep adding listeners and you're doing it the right way, you'll have this group that you get to talk to each and every week. You get to make a difference in their lives. You get to share yourself and your story with them. You get to build that relationship with them so they get to know who you are. We build rapport and they want to do business with you. Growing the audience in the right way makes it much more effective when you do it in a step-by-step manner by finding where your audience is hanging out, getting in front of them, offering that piece of content that gets them on your email list and bringing them back in to see what you're all about. And that's how you do it. And if you want to get started in that, I would love to invite you to join me in the Audience Explosion Blueprint Coaching Program. It is a group program where we get together and learn exactly how to grow your audience. But not only that, we actually take action and we get it done. So by the end of the Audience Explosion Blueprint Program, you will grow your audience, just like Greg Payne did. You will start and somewhere you'll take consistent action every day over 6 weeks to grow your audience. You'll increase your downloads. You'll add subscribers to your podcast. More importantly, the right subscribers who will become clients in your business. And you'll be able to leverage that audience to monetize your show by consistently attracting those ideal coaching clients. Now, the Audience Explosion Blueprint Program is a 6-week program. So over the course of that 6 weeks, you get 6 live group explosion training sessions with me. Just like this, we sit down and we build your blueprint in a step-by-step manner, and we take action every week. I show you exactly what to do each week, and I give you 2 or 3 things to take action on so you can grow your audience in a methodical way. All right, those 6 training sessions at $1,497 value. I sit with you every week, 60 to 90 minutes, depending on how many questions we have and what we need to go over, so we can implement your blueprint and grow your audience methodically. We record all of the sessions, and you get lifetime access to the recordings, both audio and video. You can download the audio so you can take it with you like a podcast. You can sit and watch the video and enjoy the slides if you'd like. And you get, as long as the program is live, you have lifetime access to them for the lifetime of the program. That's a $1,497 value. 2 years from now, you want to come back and brush up on it again, you have access to it. So though the live classes last for 6 weeks, you can go in and watch the replays anytime you'd like. They're fully available to you. You get full access to an online toolkit, worksheet, and template library. Over the 35 years I've been in radio, I've created dozens of templates and worksheets that help content creators create great content. This is everything from my show prep planning worksheet to my ideal target listener worksheet, an introduction template that shows you how to craft the introduction to your show. The Podcast Profits Framework is in there. It's all in there. There's about 3 dozen worksheets, templates, and other resources in this library, and you get full access to it. You can download them and use them anytime you'd like. It's a $497 value. Now, this has come from my over 3 decades in radio. It's probably worth a lot more than $497 if I were to put it all together, but I put a number on it so we get some sort of value there. But it's quite resourceful for you. Use it anytime you'd like. You get access to the private Audience Explosion Blueprint group. You get lifetime access to that. This is a place where you can get in and ask your questions between our calls. So you can get in, ask questions, get your questions answered before our next call next week. So you don't have to wait a whole week to our next call to get your problem solved. All the people that are in the group currently and previously are still in this group here and can answer your questions. That's a $497 value each. Every day I send you an email that gives you 1 action step to handle that particular day. If you want to grow your audience, you need to take action, and I want to help you do that. Many times we get in a program, we meet once a week, and it's the night before, and you feel like you're back in college and you're cramming for the exam the next morning, and I got to get everything done tonight. I don't want that to happen. I want you to take consistent action, and it's about 15 minutes a day. If you can set aside 15 minutes to take action, to do 1 or 2 things, you're going to grow your audience. I'll show you exactly what those 1 or 2 things are. Those daily emails, $497 value for those. You'll get a one-on-one coaching call with me. It's about 30 minutes. Sometimes it lasts a little longer. Depends how stuck you are and how much I need to show you where to go. It's a $250 value. If you were to book a one-on-one call with me, I want to make sure that your plan is perfect and it's getting you where you want to go. So we're going to sit down, we're going to look at your blueprint. We're going to make sure that you're accomplishing what you want to accomplish and getting where you need to go. So that's a $250 value there. You also get lifetime access to all of our future calls, all of our future versions, and all of our updates. So every time I teach this course, which is usually about twice a year, you can come back through the program anytime you'd like. So you go through it now, you can implement it over the next few months. When I teach it again, if you want to come back and go through it a second time to brush up, a lot of times I find the third or fourth time I go through a program, I'm really starting to get the hang of it, and I'm starting to catch the nuances that really put it into effect, because I didn't know now what I would know then, and it becomes much more effective. That's a $1,497 value. You can come through it anytime you want. You're always welcome. Total value for the whole package is $6,232 if you were able to buy it all individually, which you can't, but let's say you could. That's what you would spend for it. All right, to get involved with the Audience Explosion Blueprint. But I do have a few bonuses for you. At the end of Audience Explosion Blueprint, I'm putting together a 3-day podcast profits workshop. So after you build the audience, how do we convert those listeners into clients? How do we transform the audience and the attention that we have into clients? We'll put that all together in the Podcast Profits Workshop. It's a 3-day event. It's a $1,997 event. You'll get into that for free at the end of the 6-week program. Bonus number 2 is an additional one-on-one call with me to use anytime you'd like. We can get back on the phone. If you're having struggles, you want a little refinement on your strategy and your blueprint, I'll get you into another one-on-one call, help you overcome those challenges and get where you want to go. That's another $250 value. And to make sure your content is really on par, I'm going to give you how to crush your next podcast interview like a radio pro. It's my course that you can go through. It's $197 value. It'll show you exactly how I interviewed all of those people I showed you earlier, George Strait and Lady Gaga and all the rest. So the total value of the Audience Explosion Blueprint is over $8,676. You get the 6 live group explosion training sessions. You get lifetime access to all of the recordings, audio and video. You can revisit those anytime you'd like. You get the full online toolkit and template library to access anytime you'd like. You get a private Audience Explosion Blueprint group. You'll be a member of that to ask your questions between our calls. You'll get a daily email reminder from me to take your action for 15 minutes a day, every day, so we can make that systematic and methodical approach to growing your audience. You'll get a one-on-one call with me to help you implement your strategy. You get lifetime access to all of our future calls, our versions, and our updates. Every time I teach it, I update it just a little bit based on the success of the previous students, and I teach it a little different way. And so you'll get access to every time I teach it. You'll get the Podcast Profits Workshop 3-day event ticket. You can come to that for free. You'll get an additional one-on-one call with me, and you'll get the powerful and unique podcast interviews course. Total value, $8,676. Enrollment in Audience Explosion Blueprint is $997. It's a 6-week program, and it typically sells for $997, but I'm going to make a deal for you today to make it easy for you. Instead of $997 to get in, today, if you act now, you can get in for $497. 6-week program, all of the live calls, all of the recordings, the 3-day event, and the whole deal. It's $497. You can enroll at podcasttalentcoach.com/audience. You can get signed up right there. We'll get you onboarded. Registration will be open this week. We need to get everybody onboarded. We'll start 2 weeks from today. Courses will be at this time every Monday, and it will last for 6 weeks up until that 3-day event. Of course, I'm going to give you a guarantee. I don't want you to get in and then figure out, you know what, this really wasn't for me. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I've never had anybody ask me for their money back, but I will give you a 30-day money back guarantee. If you get into Audience Explosion Blueprint and for any reason you figure it's not for you within the first 30 days, you get your full money back, no questions asked. Just want to make sure that you're getting where you want to go. And that's what it's all about. So $497 is your enrollment. You can enroll at podcasttalentcoach.com/audience. Get signed up right there. This offer and the bonuses all go away Friday night. So you have this week to get registered. They go away Friday, October 6th at midnight. And that's where you can get registered at podcasttalentcoach.com/audience. So any questions that you have that post up in the chat, I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you have regarding Audience Explosion Blueprint or anything that we covered today. I posted the link for the Audience Explosion Blueprint in the chat. You can get it at podcasttalentcoach.com/audience. You can get enrolled right there as well. Any questions that you have? Audience Explosion Blueprint will begin 2 weeks from today. Like I mentioned, it'll begin on Monday, October 16, and it will start at 4 p.m. Central Time. We'll do that. We'll do that every week for 6 weeks. All right. Well, if there are no questions, oh, you got a question, Tony? Yeah.
So when you were talking about getting on, like being the speaker, like trying to build your new audience, gather that, you're talking about summits, conferences, groups, and different, speaking at different things. Would that be something to be concerned about, trying to get paid for those, or doing those as just like doing those for free just to get those audience members? How do you suggest that?
Yeah, I would do those for free. A lot of times, get on a summit. You get on the summit for free in order to get in front of their audience, and they share you with their audience. You give them 45 minutes of your time giving a presentation, and in exchange, they're getting you in front of your audience. So it's usually free both ways. There are some summits that will charge you to be on their summit. I recommend against those. If you're devoting your time to be on somebody's stage and offering them content, I would not pay for that opportunity. Instead, I would look for summits that let you on for free. Rarely do you get paid to be on a summit or on an event when it's like a conference or something like that. Usually that's free. There are times where big keynote speakers will get paid to speak at an event, or companies will hire a speaker to come in. Usually when that happens, an offer or a pitch isn't involved in those situations. So it's usually a chance to get in front of the audience, get people to your email list. So usually no money exchange, just time and effort.
Okay. That's what I assumed. I just wanted to make sure,
yeah,
I didn't want to just assume. So, all right, thanks.
Very good question. Good question, Tony. All right. If there are no other questions, I appreciate you being here. Thanks for giving me your time today. Thanks for sticking around. You can get enrolled at podcasttalentcoach.com/audience. I can't wait to see you all over there. Thanks for being here today. If you ever have questions, hit me up and we'll see you again soon. Take care.